The right whale is an extraordinary creature. It's really one of the wonders of the living world. But if something in our management doesn't change, the direction of the population points to zero, and that's extinction.
The North Atlantic right whale is considered one of the most endangered species on the planet.
This would be the first large whale in modern history that would go extinct.
So 85% of the right whale population now bears scars that indicate an entanglement injury. This was a big problem, and it's an urgent problem.
It's a tragedy that we're losing the right whales. It's emblematic of large-scale changes that are happening on the planet.
Human beings can't exist without biodiversity, and this is maybe a harbinger of where we're going.
We need to put as much pressure as we can on the agency to step up and take action right now.
I don't think the urgency can be overstated.
Human action is killing these whales, and human action has the ability to save them.
Lobstermen are stewards of the sea, and they don't want to entangle anything.
I sat here and listened to environmentalist after environmentalist tell me what a murderous individual I am.
My opinion about the whales is fuck them. What more can we do? Eventually they're going to die off. It's going to happen no matter what.
As your governor, I will do everything I can to defend Maine's lobster industry in the face of this absurd federal overreach.
The challenge is to find ways for the fishing industry and the right whales to coexist in the same waters.
NOAA is the fox guarding the chicken coop. You're going to be fired for being a liar and a person who works to kill off the right whale.
One of the problems is that fisheries are one of the main factors that are endangering protected species. You end up with one organisation deeply conflicted with its mission.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this hearing of the Subcommittee on Water, Oceans, and Wildlife. We'll now examine the many threats facing one of the most endangered marine mammals in the world.
The stock is now declining rapidly, with only about 400 left.
There's fewer right whales in existence than members of Congress, and there are fewer than 100 breeding females in the population.
In 2017 and 18, 20 right whales were found dead, representing nearly 5% of the population. Of the 12 whales that were examined carefully, all had died from human causes.
In order to maintain a sustainable right whale population, no more than one right whale per year can be killed by human causes. That number has been exceeded every single year for the last 20 years. Science shows that climate change may be shifting the food source northward, which means the whales will be moving further into areas with shipping lanes and lobster traps. No wonder these whales are in such dire straits. If more is not done to save this iconic species, scientists predict it will go extinct in the next few decades.
It's 2 miles at 010. It's back to the east corner of yesterday. We're in Cape Cod Bay, and so we're headed over to a patch where we saw a lot of whales yesterday. What I do for a living is I worry about the relationship between humans and marine mammals. We have to figure out why the animals are not recovering and what we can do about it to try and secure the longevity of the species.
Right here.
We just don't give these guys a chance to live a full life. There's a whale right here. What we're hoping to learn from these animals today is who they are and how they are. The who is largely done by a photograph of the head.
Oh, it's competing there? Okay. I'm here to collect images to assess evidence of entanglement scarring or vessel strikes and look at their health.
The right whales have been in the bay for a couple of months now, and they've been feeding deep, but they're beginning to come up to the surface to feed more.
Oh, that's it. That's all it's there. Often you'll see a tail going down. Occasionally you'll see a back as they surface. It's a matter of getting into the head of the whale as to what it's going to do next.
We keep track of individual whales through these callosity patterns on top of their head. Each whale has its own unique pattern, very different from each other. We also have whales that have been entangled that we know are carrying gear in here. This is pretty bad entanglement scars, sort of deep raw tissue there. We want to keep track of those individuals in particular, especially with the drone footage.
Got a couple of drones on the boat. We use them for examining the body condition of these animals and the length. And if you do that year by year, you can get at the growth rates and also the changing in the condition of the animals with the various impacts that they're suffering from.
When a whale gets entangled in rope, they can take 6 months to die. There is an industry there that causes a very significant animal welfare problem.
Cape Cod Bay is one of the richest feeding grounds for this population. Once the plankton here has run its course, then they'll shift to other habitats further north.
Despite all of the efforts that have gone on, entanglement has got worse. In the last 16 years, we've killed 70 right whales, and entanglement was the primary problem.
If we don't stop the level of mortality, we could just be driving the nail into the coffin of this species. And it could happen fast.
My name is Rob Martin. I'm a commercial fisherman, and I've probably been fishing too long, since I was a kid fishing out of a skiff. My grandfather used to fish back in the 30s, and my great-grandparents, they fished out of dories, and I've always been infatuated by the sea, and that's what I always want to do is to go lobster. When it's in your blood, it's in your blood. Five years ago, when we got one of the closures, it was a lot bigger than what we thought it was going to be. When I found out it did happen, I was very, very upset. I had 3 months not getting paid. It hit. That first year, it hit hard. College tuition payments to make, I got mortgage payments. It seemed to get tougher and tougher every year. I don't want to see any more closures. I want to see fishermen and scientists actually work together. And I'm very concerned because nobody knows what's going to happen. It's anybody's guess.
Peace and quiet.
I am preparing right now for the upcoming season to get as much stuff done as I can. Basically, if I'm not working on the boat, I've been working on gear on a nice day. I'm doing it pushing 40 years now on my own doing it, so that's a long time. These are all my 800 traps. And the reason why they're all here in the yard is because right now I'm not allowed to fish for 3 months, and I'm just waiting for May 1st so I can start setting gear again. The bulk of my gear is already ready here. checking there's no holes in the heads. The trap tag in, go on to the next one. This is all whale safe rope. The bulk of my vertical lines, if I can get it, is orange, because in the water, the eyeball of a whale, even though they see in black and white, so they can pick up red and orange the best. That probably breaks at probably 4,000 pounds. There's a lot of rope here. Whatever needs to touch up with paint, I'll paint a bunch of buoys. I'll replace those or any of the rope on those and go order some bait for a week and a half from now. Start setting gear. This is Laurie Karen, my better half, who was a lot better than me.
It was somewhat shocking to us when the final rule came out, and the magnitude, the fact that it encompassed 3,000 square nautical miles. 5 years later, we're being told that it's not enough.
Happening now, Atlantic right whales are at the center of a protest along the New England coastline.
Of course, these lobstermen know that they are up against an endangered species, but they say what isn't fair is the restriction that federal lawmakers are putting on them.
In reality, the closure that took place put a cork in 3 harbors.
Thank you all for being here today to show your support for the local commercial lobstermen, their families, crew, and shoreside businesses who cannot go to work today. The mass restricted area has devastating economic impacts on the fleet. We are here in Plymouth, America's hometown, where this country was built on commercial fishing, and this historic way of life is being threatened every day. Conservation groups continually sue the federal government to add more and more restrictive regulations on the commercial lobster industry as a whole. Enough is enough. Where will the financial help come from to help these families? Thank you for being here today.
The guys all around here are waiting to set gear. The boats are loaded, waiting to go. My message for the government is work with us. We've done the right thing.
Rob's income is the one that's always paid the mortgage and then some. So for us to lose up to 1/3 of his earning income potential, it was quite devastating for us.
What's the point of fishing anymore if you can't even go fishing to make a paycheck? It's going to be a hobby soon. It's just next to impossible to want to do it anymore.
This is economically devastating, yes, because it's not just affecting their businesses, it affects everyone that depends upon the lobster industry. We have bait dealers here today, we have fuel suppliers, shoreside marine businesses depend on, local restaurants depend upon the lobster industries.
This makes no sense, because is this the only place where there's whales? I don't think so. I'm on the brink of going out of business. Just stinks being the fallout of a global issue.
There is a lot of focus on the right whales due to the fact that they're endangered, but there's also going to be an endangered lobster fisherman. We don't want that to happen. We want to try and coexist.
Here are some letters that we've written from the South Shore Lobster Fishermen's Association. I would suggest we've had 75 to 100 meetings at this point. Articles on gear modification. This is the lawsuit filed by the environmentalists. There was another lawsuit in 2011, another separate lawsuit in 2018 in the Massachusetts Federal Court. Division of Marine Fishery responses. These would be some advisories from NOAA, conservation groups, letters that have been written. It just goes on and on and on. As I started looking into it and attending meetings with Rob, there was a bit of an injustice. It's been really, really important to us that we educate ourselves through this process. So as you can see, we've killed a lot of trees, unfortunately. We didn't battle the regulations. We stepped forward graciously to see how we could exist within them, and we continue with that. I do believe that the whales deserve protection, but fishermen remain on the sidelines closed. There are casualties, and those need to be considered.
We want to welcome you to this TRT meeting. We know that we are at a critical juncture. We need to make changes. We want whales and fisheries to coexist. You are the group of people, the experts, who know the whales, know the fisheries, and can come up with a consensus approach to solving these very intractable challenges.
We're at the Atlantic Large Whale Take Reduction Team, which is the National Marine Fisheries Service approach to reducing the consequences of human activities on right whales.
It's fishermen, conservationists, researchers, state and federal managers, all getting together to try to hammer out the solutions to this problem.
Those of you who have been at this for decades know what we're asking you to do. We have to achieve 60 to 80% reduction in serious injuries and mortalities to right whales.
The situation for right whales continues to worsen, so now's the time to act.
I mean, in the discussions that I've had with a lot of people around this table, there are very divergent views.
Well, fundamentally, we have a nearly $1 billion industry and an urgent need to protect these whales from entanglement in fisheries so that the fishermen can maintain their livelihoods and that we can preserve an endangered species.
You'll note that in 9 of the last 10 years, at least one right whale died due to entanglement. It actually increased from 21% between 1970 and 2002 to 51% in the last 16 years. So now more than 75% of the anthropogenic deaths are due to entanglement. But it does just kind of underline, again, that the entanglement problem is the most pressing issue for right whales right now.
Entanglements in fixed gear fisheries, including things like lobster trap pots, basically it's the line that connects the buoy at the surface of the ocean to the trap at the bottom that's collecting the lobster, is an entanglement hazard. And we know that right whales in particular are highly susceptible.
These animals clearly are suffering quite a bit before they die. Imagine panicking, being stuck underwater and not being able to get to the surface.
We're looking at between 50 and 100 right whales getting entangled every year. The idea that you can just push that under the rug is not going to end well for the lobster fisheries that wants to continue that denial. The data doesn't support it.
I'm struggling with the conversation that we're having. We're being very specific about how that happens in a time frame that I can understand with the decision that we're supposed to make.
I think that the smaller spatial closures are really not probably going to be as effective. Right whales' movements are really hard to predict.
Serious injury and mortalities that are reported in the stock assessment report are just what's observed. And we know that there are many that are unobserved.
It is simple arithmetic. The number of calves being born is too low and the number of deaths is too high. And the data are unequivocal. The North Atlantic right whale is going down. The arrow points to 0.
If we are moving forward with regulations that are going to require fishermen to make more sacrifices, I would urge you not to put them in a situation where the solution we come up with is too modest. Because at the end of the day, we'll be back at this table again.
We don't have the time to have these battles. These whales will go extinct if we don't make these changes.
We are motivated to act by our conscience, by the law, so that the fishermen can maintain their livelihoods and that we can preserve an endangered species.
It is advertised in Boston, New York, and Buffalo. All the way you're running here and blow, boys, blow. They'll send you to New Bedford, a famous whaling port. All the way you're running here and blow, boys, blow.
My family made a considerable amount of money hunting whales for hundreds of years in all oceans. The legacy of whaling is something that the entire city deals with.
The business of whaling had a great cultural influence on the ports that it touched, especially, of course, New Bedford.
New Bedford was one of the most important whaling ports in the world. It was the wealthiest city per capita twice in its existence.
As Herman Melville said, all the brave houses and flowery gardens were each harpooned and dragged up hither from the bottom of the sea. The killing of whales is part of our history.
It looks like kind of a hard, tough business. Well, everything aboard a whaler is hard.
Go out to sea, you'd see a whale, you'd drop the whale boats into the water, the men would go off and catch the whale.
And they haul up onto the whale so that the mate can lance it. And they have this Nantucket sleigh ride. It's like having a bear by the tail. You either let go and get out of the way or kill it.
We are so lucky tonight to have Christina Canat with us, and she's our curator.
Yes.
She's going to give us the tour.
And if you guys want to bring any white wine, is fine. We can go behind the scenes with those. And just don't tell Jordan, our collections director. See, we can head down to storage. I just want to show you some of the whaling instruments back here. All of these were bent by the animal. You'd shoot this into the whale, and this would pivot, so it's tragic and horrible to look at, but it also shows how powerful these fights were. And these ones here are exploding harpoons. These would be shot out of those guns and explode in the animal. So you imagine shooting this off your shoulder.
It would give you a big
I would break mine. Yeah, these are whale oils. Some of them are incredibly smelly.
Oh, yeah.
If I open it, it'll really...
No, don't open it. It's a smelly area.
Wow, look at these. What is this? These are weapons.
That's amazing.
The North Atlantic right whales had good blubber, they had good baleen, and they floated. And they live within a very close proximity to other kinds of human activities. So the legend is that the North Atlantic right whales were called right whales because they were the right whales to kill.
No matter what size they were, you took them as fast as you could because you didn't know whether you would go a week, 2 weeks, or sometimes a month without seeing a whale.
We decimated whale populations in the creation of the first energy business in the United States. It was outlawed with the Marine Mammal Protection Act.
She was hit by a ship and she was pregnant. So we lost 2 possible reproductive females in that one ship strike. We're still whaling just with different intention. So we're still killing them, but not on purpose. Some of the biology and ecology of whales that made them vulnerable to Yankee whalemen are the same kinds of behaviors and biology that make them susceptible to modern human activity impacts like ship strikes, entanglements, and noise pollution.
New Bedford is still a seaport. For the last 20 years, it's been the #1 fishing port in the country by a mile.
If nothing happens, in 20 years there will be no more reproducing females. That's the projection. It's pretty gruesome.
If we let this species go extinct on our watch, we all have to live with that.
She's a right whale, living in the wrong time. One of the last survivors in a long line.
This is a festival to fire up these young people to help save this animal.
Between shipping lanes and fishing nets, can they beat the odds?
The work of these students and other visual artists really helps connect the public to why this issue is so important, like nothing else.
Come on, Calvin, you can make it through, make it through. Come on, Calvin, we're counting on you. She's counting on us, and she's counting on you.
It is so great to be at the New England Aquarium today to celebrate these amazing animals. What we're trying to do here today is raise awareness.
We're simulating right whale entanglement, which is the leading cause of mortality for the species. So it's sort of the major reason why they're on the road to extinction.
We have postcards that we have made up of the students' arts, and the postcards will go to elected representatives asking them to support the Save the Right Whale Act.
I came here because I wanted to save the whales because people accidentally get it in their net.
It's that proximity to extinction that brings some urgency to those of us that still have an opportunity to make a difference, to try to make a difference.
I learned about how many deaths there were just off the shores of the Cape, which is where I'm from, and I learned about how serious it is.
We really appreciate artwork rather than just seeing numbers and reading words. You see an image.
We can remember a powerful image for the rest of our lives, and that can be a very, very powerful tool in terms of moving that needle in favor of conservation.
Among the greatest things I've ever had the privilege of doing was being in the presence of a right whale. I was diving alone. I was into the subantarctic of New Zealand, and I had this giant right whale, like a submarine, coming down. I remember bending over backwards in like a yoga pose. My tank was scraping the sand. Here was this animal with a softball-sized eye turning to look at me, probably trying to figure out what I was. It is breathtaking in a way that I can't explain.
Will we let this species slip through our hands and watch it go extinct, or will we protect what we love?
Thank you again for coming out, for honoring the North Atlantic right whale.
We wouldn't like it if we went extinct, so why make other animals extinct?
Your exercise has been started.
We use the simulator extensively to practice navigational skills, ship handling skills, and collision avoidance, not only with other ships, but with marine life. Operating a ship in heavy weather can be particularly challenging, especially when it comes to being able to detect a right whale. They don't show up on radar. They are not visible at a great distance, and at night it can be virtually impossible to detect their presence. Fortunately, with right whales, a lot of the technology that we have isn't particularly helpful. Our best asset to detect and avoid a right whale is our own eyes looking out the windows.
My name is Christopher W. Clark. I study the sounds of life on the planet, particularly the voices of the whales. So these are the sounds of two right whales greeting each other. So when I've been doing recordings of whales, there are times when I was literally in the boat, I had the hydrophones in the water, I had headphones on, and I can't hear anything. I'm going, what's wrong? And then I realize, oh, I'm in the shipping lane. The sound from the ship is coming from tens and tens of miles away. I can't hear the whales and I can't see it on my displays. They can't hear each other and they can't communicate. When you're living in the ocean, you are highly dependent upon sound as your primary mechanism for survival. These animals navigate in the ocean using sound. When that noise gets up to a certain point, you see their whole communication system just collapse. The noise increases their stress levels, and their stress level makes them more susceptible to injury and to disease. It's just this rising tide of noise, and then the whales are suffering in their ability to communicate and maintain their normal behaviors.
Park and brake. Static selector is normal.
Our primary job is to monitor right whales.
The challenge with flying over right whales can be unique. For these surveys, we start off flying straight lines at 1,000 feet over the water.
We have two observers monitoring the ocean surface and looking for indications that right whales are present.
Right well. 7-4 Tango Whiskey.
Once a whale is spotted, we'll then maneuver the aircraft over the whale in order for them to be able to take pictures.
We use photo identification to tell how many whales are there. We're also checking the whales to see if there's any entanglement. With monitoring, we can pinpoint the key areas that are important to either have ships slow down or to modify fishing gear to reduce the risk that whales can become entangled. Right whales are highly migratory. They range from Florida up through into Canadian waters. In 2015, we started doing some surveys up in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. We found a large number of whales there, coincident with a major mortality event. A total of 12 right whales were found in the Gulf of St. Lawrence dead.
When we do fly over a carcass, it is a little disheartening.
We spent a lot of our time helping the Canadian government relocate carcasses so they could tow them back to shore to examine them to find out exactly what the cause of death was.
I'm here to do a ceremony to honor the spirit of an animal that's very magnificent. It's important that we let the Creator and the spirits know that we've heard the message about the hard times that are coming when the whales come ashore.
We're in northeastern New Brunswick on Muscu Island. We're here to necropsy the right whale that's behind us here. The pathologists, along with many vet techs and their team, are performing a necropsy on the right whale to hopefully identify what could possibly be the cause of death.
The one thing we're going to do, try to get the complete history from the previous sightings, because we know that he's been entangled before. Was he disentangled? Did he shed the gear on his own? Yeah. It's a very difficult thing to do as we look at this beautiful animal and then have to open it up and look inside.
Does anyone need a new knife or anything?
We're good for now.
Okay.
It was extremely fresh, and the fresher the animal is, the more we can learn. We have various samples from all the major organs, and then we have a variety of bones and baleen going for genetics. Fisheries and Oceans Canada are in charge of the management, so the information is provided to them. It is then in their hands to figure out what the next steps are and to decide what to do.
In 2017, when North Atlantic right whales showed up in the Gulf of St. Lawrence for the first time in significant numbers, we didn't have mitigation measures in place specific to that like we did in other parts of Atlantic Canada where North Atlantic right whales were present. And we started to see the impacts of that in terms of some whale mortalities.
We had 17 animals that had died, 5 in the US, 12 in Canada. That was a major light turning on for a lot of people.
We ultimately closed the Gulf fishery in 48 hours.
The Department of Fisheries and Oceans announced the closure of 10 zones to lobster fishing in the Gulf of St. Lawrence. This following the sighting of 5 endangered North Atlantic right whales.
2017, it was the news for everybody, but for us too.
Bottom line, it was an inconvenience that cost us financially.
Not one person in the fishing industry would agree with what was going on. They know anything can happen and they can't do nothing about it. That's why there was a protest.
Hundreds of traps were discarded on the front steps of Liberal MP Serge Cormier's Caracat office.
The lobster and crab fishery in Atlantic Canada is a huge contributor to the economy in those provinces, representing over $2 billion in economic value.
Compared to like 10, 15 years ago, volume has doubled, if not tripled. It's possible that the climate change has something to do with it. Lobster seems to be migrating to colder temperatures.
These measures have had a huge impact on profit margins.
The union has been asking DFO to reconsider the complete closure.
Immediately following 2017, Canada has been laxing in its implementation of our Species at Risk Act.
We did put in place a variety of measures, and those measures have evolved over the last 3 years.
And there's been some changes made this year from last year that allows us to continue to fish in these shallower waters where the whales don't seem to pass.
Research done in Canada and the U.S. suggests that's where the whales and their calves spend a considerable amount of time.
We went through a lot in 2017. We were very fortunate last year in Canada not to deal with any dead right whales. We were hoping for that to continue, but obviously there were other things in play.
Causes are still being assessed and the final necropsy reports will be coming out.
Right now, those whales are stressing us. They are aggressive, they close very fast. It makes the job for us very hard.
Let's see what caused the death of this whale before put a dark cloud on the fisherman's head. It's a sad situation, but it's hard to take one and say we have to change the world to save one particular species. The whales are just another story in a big book of changes that we've already seen and will continue to see.
Scientists continue to study what is driving the distribution of North Atlantic right whales. It certainly does include climate change.
I mean, it's actually very hard to turn around and look at it because we've done this way too much. And the thing is, its ability to survive almost solely rests in our hands.
Bring it on board. I've been measuring this cross-section for the last 7 years. We sample these different organisms from the algae, the bacteria, and the viruses, all the way up to the zooplankton, the food for right whales. Okay, so if we lower this thing, we're coring the ocean. And everything you catch in your zooplankton net is everything that's out there that's going to become massive, right? The swordfish, the lobster larvae. And since we're talking about the base of the food chain, it's what drives the productivity of everything else. There are live animals in here, and we're going to move these things into a small jar, and then we're going to pour alcohol on them, and it'll be preserved for a good week. So if you look in here, you see all those darting animals? Those are all copepods. Copepods are the most abundant animal on the planet. Period. If you crushed them all up, it's the equivalent of about 1 trillion humans. How does a 40-ton animal live on an animal that is this big? It's only because all of the copepods go down at the same time and they aggregate into a compact layer of just fat animals. From here across the Atlantic to Norway, it forms a density that makes it worthwhile for an animal to dive to feed on them. Some of these copepods have been around for 200 million years. They've adapted and fine-tuned their life cycles to live in a particular environmental setting. And now that environmental setting is changing faster than they're able to adapt. As the temperature has been increasing, the populations of these calanists have been decreasing, and the organisms that depend on them, such as right whales, are not going to find sufficient food. It's that disconnect that's beginning to cause the problem. That's a calanus. Looks like one. Looks like she's swimming like that. They're tiny little organisms that have this really complex behavior pattern. Well, this is actually a really good image of how much fat they have. This is what right whales eat. They eat Calanus finmarchicus.
Right whales need to find and eat thousands and thousands of pounds of Calanus per day when they're feeding in the Gulf of Maine. So even small declines can have a huge difference. The waters of the Gulf of Maine have been warming faster than 99.9% of the rest of the world's oceans. There's a strong inverse relationship between temperature and Calanus. When waters get warm, we see a big decline in Calanus, and especially the energy-rich Calanus that right whales need. Depending on where you look and the time of year, you can see anywhere from the 30 to a 90% decline in Calanus. Then the right whales have to start looking elsewhere for their food. They started showing up in places where we didn't have management and conservation programs in place. So they were more vulnerable to things like ship strikes or gear entanglements. We've built our management strategy around this idea that the right whales are going to do roughly the same thing every year. And as the climate has changed, it's really altered the predictability in that pattern. The mortalities have gone up so sharply because all of a sudden those management strategies don't work anymore.
I believe that the team here can put something forward that's in the ballpark of what is needed for the species.
I'd probably say it has to go back to the team. We have a discussion about it.
People took the situation seriously this time. It has gone a direction that we have not seen in nearly a quarter of a century of doing this.
This is the least squishy discussion we have had in 25 years.
Now, as a Maine lobster fisherman, I am responsible for 3 different families directly, and my ability to come home today was and to be able to tell them that I might not be able to support them in the future was something I have had a really, really hard time thinking about. In my boat alone, I am going to remove 10.78 miles of vertical line. It's scary for me, but I know that's something, and I can go back to my fishery and have that conversation.
I'm here basically trying to get myself out of a job. Am I so certain, on this consensus, that I will disband my disentanglement team? I'm no fool. But this is the best step that I have seen taken since I've been on the team.
If you can live with moving this package forward, please raise your hand.
In 20 years of meeting and convening this team, it has never put forward measures as strong as what has been accomplished today.
Who cannot live with this package?
Sharon.
Well, this has a lot of attraction for me, and I think there's a lot here that can be useful. My concern is I don't see what else is going to be considered by the agency besides this, and I don't consider this sufficient.
I don't think it's the solution to the problem, but I think we came very close.
In my opinion, probably lead us to a situation where the unsustainable kills of right whales in the fishing industry will stop.
There's absolutely a need for expedited implementation of what can be done as quickly as it can be done.
When we look at such deep cuts to the fisheries, we do have to look at, the possibility of unintended consequences.
If the measures necessary to reduce risk can't be implemented right away, then we urge NIMS to take emergency action.
It's going to be devastating to some communities, so nobody's won here except maybe and hopefully the right whale.
I feel like this is a really huge step to have a 50% vertical line reduction in some areas. The industry has really stepped up to do their part.
Measures developed here today are very likely to have potential severe economic impacts to the state of Maine's lobster fishery. The recommendations put forward here today are a big ask.
We did not hammer out all the details, and the devil is in the details. And how something as large as a 50% reduction in vertical line impacts the fishery, we need to maintain our rights to disagree if something isn't panning out in the way that can be implemented appropriately for the state.
I'm just finishing up the last week of the closure, starting to set gear. A load of traps in the boat, I had a load of traps in the dock. I have to bring 2 loads with the trailer with ropes. Try to get as much gear as I can in the water right now to start making money. We just got done with the Atlantic Large Whale Take Reduction Team a week and a half ago. A lot got done. There's been no more added closures, and Maine has to reduce their vertical lines by 50%. In the long run, if you're able to go fishing still, and that's all you got to do, I wouldn't be complaining, because it's a lot harsher measures that could have happened. There's probably over 10,000 feet of rope here, on these 4 trawls, including the vertical line. I fish 800 traps total with only 80 vertical lines altogether. I was fishing 800 singles to be 800 vertical lines. And everything's tied down, ready to go. I'll throw a rope over the top of those high flyers. Boom, boom, boom. We're ready to go.
Maine is taking a stand against a strict new federal plan to stop right whales from dying.
Maine's congressional delegation is reaching out to President Trump tonight, asking him to help the lobster industry.
Maine's representatives say new federal regulations designed to protect whales are instead a grave threat to thousands of people who rely on the lobster fishery.
Coastal fishermen from east and west, I want to welcome you to the Maine Lobstermen's Rally. We all know why we're here.
This is going to destroy our coastline, our small communities, our lobster industry. It's the only industry we have left.
We all care about the right whale, but we all believe there's a right way to go about doing this, and this proposal isn't the way.
Maine's entire congressional delegation and Governor Mills stand with you in this fight.
My administration will not allow the bureaucrats of Washington, D.C. to undermine our lobster industry or our economy with foolish, unsupported, and ill-advised regulations.
We truly believe from the bottom of our hearts that Maine lobstermen are not part of the problem.
When a species of whale is at risk of extinction, who has a seat at the table to ensure that the process behind such decisions is fair and equitable?
NOAA has chosen to persecute Maine's lobster industry, not to diminish the threat to the right whale, but as an expedient means to get the environmentalists off their back.
I'm more than willing to stand with you and fight like hell to make sure that no more not having the government listening to me.
We've been fighting these burdensome rules that we've had to go through and the nonsense. Enough is enough.
There's thousands and thousands of jobs and people who depend on this. Once we lose a fishery, it's gone forever. I can't think of one thing that the National Marine Fisheries Service has ever done to help a fishery besides regulate it to extinction.
Today we're at the IFA Marine Mammal Rescue Warehouse. This is our rescue operations centers, and so we keep a lot of our rescue equipment here so that we can run out the door anytime marine mammals need rescuing. My name is Dr. Sarah Sharp, and I'm the animal rescue veterinarian with International Fund for Animal Welfare. We do all of the marine mammal stranding response from the Rhode Island border all the way through Cape Cod. It's one of the busiest stranding areas in all of the world.
We just got back from our Mickey Bill necropsy. We want to still consider an acute process, either human interaction, but we didn't see any other signs, or an acute disease process.
I would keep entanglement on the differential list for this animal just because we just simply couldn't examine her for evidence of entanglement because the sharks had already eaten away those parts. It's extremely rare at this point to not have a whale that has some evidence of entanglement. These whales get entangled in line, they start thrashing, they can't get to the surface to breathe. It's a quick death, but it's actually a fairly traumatic event. When we see whales that are entangled for a really long period of time, they can have a number of different wounds associated with the entangling gear. The line can embed over the blowhole. That's not only going to be painful, but it's also going to significantly impact the animal's ability to breathe. This line over time essentially works deeper and deeper, and it not only cuts through the skin and the blubber and the muscle, but it actually starts cutting into the bone. Essentially acts as a very slow guillotine almost cutting through that whale tissue. Even if it's not lethal to them immediately, these are things that can decrease their ability to carry calves to term and then reproduce that population. The slight little sliver of hope that I have is that these deaths are actually preventable because we're causing them. It's extremely frustrating that, unfortunately, some of the parties are reneging on their promises to be able to get the line out of the water. So I'm absolutely worried about extinction for these animals, and I'm not only worried about extinction in the future, but I'm worried about extinction in the next few decades. I don't want these whales, sorry. Sorry. I don't want these whales to go extinct on our watch.
We're here tonight to review Maine's draft plan. So back in June, we were looking at proposals that included a recommendation of a 50% reduction in vertical lines or end lines. Maine members of the TRT, along with everybody else on the TRT, voted in favor of this 60% reduction. But the Maine member of the TRT also read into the record, we reserve our right to change our mind because we don't know what this means on the water. I think everybody was under a lot of pressure to come up with a solution. You had one of the heads of NOAA fishery there pushing to say, if you don't do this, we will. So, first piece of the Maine plan is a 25% reduction in end lines based on our calculations. So it is not a 50% reduction as proposed through the take reduction team. If you take all of the vertical lines month by month, that's over 5 million vertical lines. We're looking at impacting only 1.4 million vertical lines. We've totally changed the denominator here. Also, a biological opinion is going to be written. We're expecting that to find that the right whales are in what's called jeopardy, a legal term under the Endangered Species Act. We want our management scenarios to be accepted. I'm going to quickly talk about the wild card here, which is the federal court cases that are ongoing. About a month ago, a case was filed bringing the Maine lobster fishery directly into a lawsuit. But I want to highlight a couple of quotes from the same judge as it pertains to those whale lawsuits. Any lag between the court's issuance of an injunction is precious time for the North Atlantic right whale, which has been suffering unprecedented fatalities in the last 3 years, particularly from entanglements. This is very concerning to our attorneys. It should be very concerning to you as an industry. This remains the wild card, having a court step in and putting injunction on this fishery. So with that, I'll be happy to open it up to questions.
Say they pull the plug on us and we don't gain their support on this, where do we go to then?
I can tell you this is our line in the sand. So if they don't accept this, sure, we're going to be in a federal court fighting this out.
I'm Erica Fuller, a senior attorney at the Conservation Law Foundation and the lead attorney on our right whale efforts. We have participated in lawsuits over the last 20 years to try to protect right whales from entanglements in fishing gear. Our goal is to put enough pressure on the agency to take immediate action.
We cannot allow this right whale to go extinct on our watch.
One of the things CLF does is bring the pressure that needs to be brought on government to do its job.
We just don't have time to study them to death. We really need to start getting a long-term solution on the water.
I expect to force the federal government, to force Canada, to force the fishing industry to step up and make the necessary changes to make sure that we don't lose this right whale.
Obviously our work's not done. We have a way to go.
We do.
And not much time to get there.
This is where the rubber meets the road. Welcome to the real world of democracy.
My name is Richard Maximus Strahan, and I'm a conservation scientist and revolutionary.
We're trying to get a law on the election ballot to protect whales from being caught in fishing gear right here in our state waters.
We're in the middle of global mass extinction.
You ever hear of the right whale?
So I filed lawsuits, petitioned the government to protect the endangered wildlife. You have to fight extinction from the ground up.
Today, we are here to build and celebrate a 100-foot-long right whale and calf, composed from over 1,000 tiles created by involved young citizens and their supporters.
We're using the right whale as a symbol for the larger humanitarian effort that we need to address climate change. This whale is swimming right in the front door of the State House. When we sit down with legislators, we can say, we did this right on your doorstep because we need you to care about these issues.
Let's give it up for the right whale. All right, here at the State House, our resolution is directing Congress to pass the Save Whales Act to protect and preserve this right whale for future generations.
Any questions?
No, just save the whale.
Good attitude.
So if we force the state to force the Endangered Species Act on the fishing industry, it'll be the shot heard around the world.
From 2003 to last year in 2018, the primary cause of death was entanglement. There are a lot of things that are hard in the world. Figuring out how to solve this particular problem is not. We can't give up now.
It's like if you save the right whale, you save the ocean.
So I need 10 signatures. I have 11. And if you could certify these right now, I think the gods are on my side. Decision 2020. The people, for the first time in history, get to vote. Whales or fishing, bad fishing. You take a pick. And if the people sell out the whale, then they get the extinction that they've asked for.
If society is not going to stop a whale from going extinct, I don't think you're going to stop much of anything else.
Last time I saw a right whale was middle of April. To me, it looks like a freight train on the surface with a mouth looking down a tunnel.
Hey, almost 3:30. I'll see you in a little bit. And I am off. My mermaid, I rub her backside every day before I leave the harbor. Good luck.
I don't want to see nothing get harmed. I'm doing all I can do now to protect the whale. I'm doing my part. I know that. I remember sitting at the TRT and one of the head guys from the National Marine Fisheries Service got up and said, if you don't come up with a consensus, we will come up with a plan. You might want to come up with a plan of your own that might sting a little than being put out of business. But we are almost to the gear, so we got to get ready.
We've seen losses here.
If somebody's saying, fuck this, fuck the whale, let it die, to me, I don't want to hear it. If somebody's trying to shut you down, that's just good ammunition for them. And they're the first ones to come crying to me afterwards. But that's just human nature. And a lot of people are scared. They don't know the facts on a lot of stuff. It takes time, but if you're not at the table, be prepared to be served. There's a lot of fishermen working hard with the scientists to try to solve a problem, to try to do something about it. We'll see what happens, what the feds decide to do.
This is a special place. Cape Cod and this body of water are part of my family's heritage. It's been the backyard of now 11 generations of us. And into it come these exceptionally rare animals, these last of the right whales. So this is the place to study them, where the last battle to save them will take place. We started doing our disentanglement work in 1984, and it was the first real effort to slow down free-swimming entangled whales that otherwise would die. And it has followed on to this day as we've attempted to develop methods to free animals from lethal entanglement. This is an effort to disentangle a whale we call ruffian, who had towed gear all the way from the Gulf of St. Lawrence into Georgia, Florida waters, a distance of 1,700 miles.
Here you go. Oh, so easy forward go.
The first part of the effort, get a grapple across the gear.
I got him. He's in. Back up. Get the boat buoy ready to go over. Okay, buoy over.
And then we're attached to the whale. The flukes of a right whale are up to 18 feet across and weigh the weight of a small car. There are a couple of memorable occasions where they were very close. And if they'd hit, we undoubtedly would not have lived. Once the whale is on the surface, the effort is to use a pole to get a hook knife into the entangling ropes. And there they just succeeded in getting it. And that hook knife will eventually cut the gear.
1, 2, 3. Okay, that's it.
It's a way of remotely cutting the gear to be more safe than we used to be. Joe Howlett was trained here at the center. In 2017, Joe was dispatched to attempt a disentanglement.
Well, just keep some pressure on it.
Near the end of that disentanglement, he lost his life. Joe was an exceptionally dedicated guy who died in the effort. There is, on the part of all of us who work with right whales, a passionate desire to help them. Not just because they're whales we know, but because they're on the brink of extinction. There has to be further development and rapid development of new methods to fish, methods that do not involve entanglement. The answer is really simple. It's been there all along, and it goes far beyond anything the take reduction team has recently decided, and that is no rope in the water. That will solve the problem.
Typically in this garage, we repair boats. It has been transformed into a research and development laboratory for ropeless fishing.
My name is Richard Riles. I'm the executive director and founder to SMELT's Sea Mammal Education Learning Technology Society. I spent some years studying the entanglement problem in large whales and saw a lot of animal suffering. When you walk up to a dead animal and you see it entangled in gear, we probably want to try to figure out how to prevent that from happening.
He came to me with an idea about building a ropeless fishing system, and I told him he was crazy.
A ropeless system that could reduce entanglement in large whales and give the fishermen a potential to work in closed areas. Just trying to figure out with fishermen, can we do this? This is how ropeless fishing could work. The lobsterman shows up to his fishing grounds, deploys the gear, and sets a signal to report his position. We have no vertical line and buoy. The marine life that's swimming throughout the ocean in the fishing grounds have no chance of being entangled. Fisherman returns to the fishing ground, activates his recovery system, brings the lobster raft to the surface, leaves the fishing grounds. The technology is there. If we can afford it, we don't know. Can we get enough of it built that actually impacts global fishing? It's a big challenge. There's so many animals being entangled. Prevention is really the only hope we have to end the needless suffering of these large whales.
In the Gulf of Maine alone, there are about 3.5 million lobster traps, and at any one time, hundreds of thousands of buoy lines are in the water. That has to change.
Ropeless is coming. Whether it's now, 5 years, or 20 years, you either adapt or you get left behind.
Thank you so much for coming, everyone. North Atlantic right whales need us now more than ever. We're losing right whales at a shocking rate. So we've lost at least almost 30 animals since 2017 alone, and those are known deaths. We know that we're losing a lot more that we never discover. A scientific study recently showed they're all dying because of impacts from humans.
We all have the opportunity tonight here at NOAA headquarters to have the federal government hear from us about what we think should be done. We can't afford more delay. NOAA needs to act now. They need to act quickly.
If strong conservation measures and protective regulations are not put in place now, they will continue to decline before extinction. So this may be their last chance to get them on the road to recovery.
Good afternoon, everyone. Tonight is our scoping meeting on developing modifications to the Atlantic Large Whale Take Reduction Plan. This is the first of many opportunities for public comment, and that is a critical part of the process. It helps you all inform the steps that NOAA takes as we move towards a proposed rule.
If the goal is to get below potential biological removal level, so that's less than 1 per year, and get the risk reduction at the least economic impact, what the TRT came up with was pretty smart.
You are only talking about a theoretical, unscientific, unproven methodology proposed by the very people who are killing the whales to reduce it. So you, therefore, expect more dead right whales from entanglement over the next 10 years. Reduce does not equal eliminate.
The Marine Mammal Protection Act requires us
Maybe
to
you
reduce...
should listen to the Endangered Species Act, which makes every entanglement a violation of law. Your goal is to wipe out the right whale.
So tonight, again, we would like to get input from you now.
It's kind of sad watching what's going on here. Here we are taking the brunt of the punishment again. It's not right. I don't know how long we're going to be able to take it, but something has to change.
I'm sorry you feel like we're blaming you. I just want to tell you, we're really frustrated. We feel helpless. We feel powerless. We just wanted to keep these whales alive, and we don't think we can do it.
We're not out there trying to kill whales. It's pretty easy to go out there and say invoke this rule, this, and this, because it doesn't affect you. It affects us.
To put it bluntly, human actions are putting these beautiful, gentle giants on a direct path towards extinction. That is why we are here today, to correct these human errors and actions in a meaningful way. I urge NOAA to do right by the right whale and implement stricter regulations.
Both sides of this issue are being played. There may be no human action or inaction that can save a population of 400 right whales. But there are actions that could be taken to devastate the local economies entwined within lobstering and fishing communities.
NOAA is the fox guarding the chicken coop. It's owned by fishermen, it's run by fishermen under statute, and this beautiful opposition that they demonstrate here is just part of the scam. You're all going to be replaced by green fishermen who will not use vertical buoy ropes and will actually care about the environment.
It's time to go, Max.
No, I'm going to walk
It's time to go.
You're in there.
It's time to go.
I know, it's time for you to go, sir, because you're going to be fired for being a liar and a person who works to kill off the right whale.
We're about 10 miles from the Georgia-Florida line. We're smack dab in the middle of the North Atlantic right whale calving grounds. It's a big area, so we really depend on aerial survey to find the whales.
This is the only place that right whales are known to go to give birth to their live young. Being that they are so endangered, we're trying to protect them as much as we can.
Going back to the 2000s, we were seeing about 24 calves per year on average. Since 2010, that number's dropped in half. And 2 years ago, in fact, we didn't even see a single calf. That's the first time that it had ever happened.
The Coast Guard reported an alpha.
We can't make more calves, but we could certainly stop killing whales. That's just got to happen, or this species might not stand a chance.
It's a monumental challenge that we are currently facing, and it requires everybody, our state partners, the fishing industry, environmental groups. We need to all come to the table and play a part in the recovery of this iconic species.
Army Hurricanes, this is Noah 48, go ahead.
Hey, just want to give you a heads up. We got a mother calf pair.
Good copy, Noah 48.
The National Marine Fisheries Service has to balance these two objectives that it has of sustaining fisheries and protecting species. At the moment, that balance has just gone the wrong way.
It's always a challenge to look to dual mandates of conserving protected species and ensuring thriving, sustainable fisheries. We look for solutions that make meaningful progress towards recovering right whales while also ensuring that our fisheries remain very profitable.
We're still looking at least another couple of years before something really starts changing on the water. And that's really slow, the way these animals are disappearing at the moment.
I would reject the idea that we're too slow. We are working within the process. And in order to have effective, meaningful, long-lasting measures that are in place, we need the collaboration among all of the stakeholders.
If the agency is going to be serious about saving North Atlantic right whales, then the action that they're going to have to take is going to be more draconian than what's been considered so far. And, that's hard, but that's where we are now. North Atlantic right whales are paying a price for this. At some point, we have to turn this around.